Hey everyone, today we're sitting down with the creator of Naval Action. The very name of this game invokes a lot of emotion, as this game is frequently cited as being a great game that is held back by its execution. This game is very near and dear to my heart, and I think it's a game that a lot of people could jump into and have a lot of fun, but the grind is something that understandably keeps a lot of people out. With this in mind, I thought it was a good idea to discuss with Maxim Zazov, creator of the game, and dive into these hot topics. And I have to say, I am shocked by how candid he was, and even more surprised by some of the commitments he made to steer this game into what I think will be a better future. The interview starts off a little slow, but as things progress, we get deeper into specifics and also with his commitments of what he plans on doing. So today we hear from the devs and get their retrospective on the recent patches and visibility of what is to come. If this is your first time here, this channel focuses on multiplayer sim gameplay. If you're into that, please subscribe. We talked like I think a week or two ago. Pretty good discussion, and after talking, we were thinking that it would be really good to do an interview so others can hear. Thanks for being willing to do that. I think also, which is interesting, I don't think you've done too many interviews with the English-speaking audience. So I thought it'd be good if you could just introduce yourself and your involvement in the project, so everyone knows who you are.
All right. Depends on where should we start in history. From when I was 6 years old.
No, I mean when it comes related to Naval Action.
Well, Naval Action is a project that was created by me and my friend Alex Petrov, and also Dennis, who joined later, the co-founder of the company. We met with Petrov in a computer game, and in a computer game called Pirates of the Burning Sea, which was the only pirate MMO then. And we played it a lot together, first for different nations, and then for one nation. And then we basically liked it so much, but didn't like some of the things in the game, so we decided that maybe we can do a better one. And that's how Naval Action appeared. We also played EVE Online together, but in different times. So we didn't play together, but we played the same game in different times. And also some of the things that Naval Action uses were basically taken from EVE Online. We both come from PvP background and computer games, like PvP games, conflict, fighting challenges, and that's the Naval Action was designed from the ground up to cover for the major problems that some other PvP games in the vehicle settings or ship settings had. For example, so Naval Action is still one of the few games PvP games where you don't have hacks. So, I mean, there are exploits, of course, that players are using, like using alts or holding things together in 5 different multi-boxing windows. But in terms of the combat, there are no cheats because everything is on the server, even water is on the server. And we take pride in this accomplishment that the game is purely about skill and not about tools or different cheats that are using. For example, I mean, I also enjoy Tarkov a lot. There is a game called Escape from Tarkov, hardcore PvP game. And unfortunately, I stopped playing it because the cheaters ruined it for me. So that's how Naval Action appeared. We started making the first combat, focused on the combat initially. It was initially a session-based game and lobby-based. But as soon as open world appeared, everybody left the lobby-based part. It was empty, and people started playing open world. I think there is some magic in the open world environment, which provides this feeling that even though you have much less density of content, it gives you the feeling that you're at sea. So this is how Naval Action started.
So the game recently had a major change, almost like a relaunch. And I would love to understand how the current state differs from the overall vision that you have in mind. I know you have already messaged a little bit into the community about like sailing profiles or leaks and demastings or the home defense fleets, but kind of just, how close are we to the final vision?
Well, the major purpose of the so-called reset, it was not. I don't think it's a good name for the patch, but because reset usually means that it's better maybe to launch the new game than to continue improving something that has different parts of the foundations that are not working right. But in general, the major philosophy of the changes that happened first in March and coming, and second part of them is coming soon, is that over time, when we started developing the game, as I said in the first question, it started as a lobby-based game, and an open world was added, and we were actively involved with the community in discussing what features we want to add. And because we were not experienced enough, Naval Action actually is our first game. This is the first game we made. The second game we made was Ultimate General Gettysburg, also with Alex Petrov and also with Nick Tamadis. But in general, being the first game, we made lots of mistakes as we went. This lack of clarity and lack of understanding of what's key for the project and what's not key for the project caused us to continuously adding things that might not be needed for the project. So that's the reset comes as an attempt to ground the game in a final vision and in reality. That's why the gunpowder appeared. That's why some of the things that we don't believe the Captain was supposed to be doing at that time, like growing trees or growing potatoes, were removed from the game. So in the final vision is finalization of the damage model and the combat model, finalization of the mechanics that you also mentioned, and additions of the things that we believe should be part of the game and that were extremely loved by the community, but were removed for different reasons, like home defense fleets. We can dig deeper into the sailing model first, then on combat, and then talk about the PvP content that we believe that we should add to the game. So first of all, in sailing model, we made it less casual initially in test bed when we launched in February, late February and March. But then some of the things were not working properly, so we worked on the turning mechanics. We spent a lot of time redesigning from scratch the turning model for the vessels, because in reality, if you want to go into specific sailing details, the ship usually turns. The ship can do multiple turns, multiple successive turns over time, and after that, the ship loses all speed. Previous realization of this system was you had this so-called rudder penalty, where if you use your rudder actively, you lost speed. But the previous representation was just cutting some of the part of the speed from the ship, and after that, it didn't go anywhere. So the ships were working in the same way. There was no difference between the light vessel or the corvette or the light frigate or frigate and the heavy line ship. They all behave the same. So we finally figured out the very ingenious system how we can implement the sustained turning speed loss, which will greatly create differentiation between classes. And we enjoy it a lot in internal builds. We plan to open a testbed server pretty soon, and the players will be able to see the more natural behavior of the vessel and the difference between classes. So in this system, what we bring to the table is that the captains who are commandeering the lighter vessels will actually see the significant advantage they have in terms of turning capabilities, and they will have to trade off DPS and HP of the vessel in terms of and maybe trade it down to use the ship that is much more maneuverable, not because of the degrees per second turns, but actually an ability to have successive turns. It will also bring some difference into the port battles. And I know you're the PvP player as well, so if you have more questions about this, you can dig deeper. In terms of leaks, yeah, we are not happy, but we're not happy that they are not working as community expects, but we are gradually improving them, and then with the next patch, we plan to make them viable again, but not as deadly as before. So we want them not to be the headshot, so to speak. We want the leaks to behave the way that represents you, that gives you the opportunity to ensnare the enemy by consistently delivering the damage, not only to the HP, but to the creating fires, destroying crew, and creating leaks that eventually will overwhelm the defensive abilities of the crew to repair, and you will win the battle, not by just killing the HP, but by using all the naval vocabulary that was able to be used by the captain of the time. And in terms of HDFs, yes, we want to bring roaming fleets to the map. Previously, they were all located in capitals because their role was actually different. It was accidental discovery, just like many features in Naval Action. The HDF fleets were designed to protect the capitals because we didn't have lots of green zones at the time, and they were supposed to attack everybody who is coming to the capital to hunt new players. But players found out that they're a very good loot source, and basically that's created a very nice, easy environment in terms of you can gather your friends, go to the specific location, spend very little time to search for the target, and just sink the big group of vessels and receive good loot, have fun, and enjoy the game without long target searches. So we plan to create a certain area in the map, not in the capital, but in a certain area in the center of the map where these roaming hard fleets will sail in different sizes, and the players will be able to gather friends and go hunt them.
Okay, so basically,
hope.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No. Please go ahead.
Okay, so basically, just to paraphrase and to kind of distill everything down, basically, the relaunch is really more of a pivot back to like the original intention of the game, right? And the things that were mentioned, like sailing profiles, like this is something that is going to allow for more skill expression. Leaks and demastings are going to come back. They might not be as strong as before, but they will be there.
That's that's a good pivot. I'm glad you asked, because I actually didn't fully cover the other purposes of the launch. And again, we use this metaphor in Discord that over time, over the several years, Naval Action got itself into the typical situation the sailing ship got itself into when it's long time at sea. So lots of barnacles on the lower side underwater. That was slowing down the game, and it was basically it was an incoherent mess. And I mean, mess is in quotation marks, of course. Lots of things were working very nicely, but in general, some of the things were added into the game when they shouldn't have. And in personal opinion, growing trees, it's not something the captain should be doing. We did it because the community said, let's add some basic crafting. That's the only thing that we could come up with. And that's eventually when we grew older and more experienced, we understood that the growing trees is not a good part of the game. Even though some of the players liked it a lot, this is not the vision that we have for the captain that arrives to make money or sink other ships in the Caribbean. So in terms of that's why basically some of the things are removed and maybe are not coming back. Fishing, for example, we want to bring it back, but we don't know how to solve the AFK alt fishing that was basically ruining the economy. So in terms of the general feel of the game, we wanted to be a little bit more grounded, so to speak, more like realistic and down to earth, without all these mobile attention keepers. So that's why seasons are gone. That's why all these like weekly events are gone. We're not planning to bring them back. We know some people love them, but we believe that this is an artificial mechanic for mobile games that is just created to keep you from coming back, based not because on the feeling that you want to go fight other people, but because on the feeling of missing out. And we don't want to use the fear of missing out to entice the player to join the go online and sail out. So that's why the general feel of the reset should be, we base it on this philosophy. In terms of the combat, yes, we want to bring skill back. The demasting is also coming back a little bit more enforced, and battle sails will work much better now because we we changed the mechanics back to the original that was based on the old sailing formula, where every additional sail brings you less and less proportionate power. So that's why the first 30% of sails bring you 50% power. The first 50% of sail gives you 70% power. So basically, after the patch, the captains can be confident that they can, on battle sails, they can sail at good controllable speed and be able to turn around and control the battle in terms of the speed and distance. And at the same time, this mechanic then allows us to bring interesting skill-based, it's not realistic, but it's a skill-based mechanic where you have much stronger masts and much stronger sails if you're using battle sails. It can be logically approved. It can be logically proven. For example, you can explain that at battle sails, you have much less pressure on the rig, you have much less pressure of the wind on the masts, and that's why they feel stronger. So that could be explained in terms of the Age of Sail themes, but I still believe it's a little bit gamey. But we bring it back because we know it creates the asymmetry in terms of the combat, and this asymmetry creates fun opportunities and opportunity to use skill in combat, in port battles, in group battles, and in solo.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, to put a cap on it, because we'll move on to the next question. But basically, you're finding different avenues, or reopening old avenues, I guess, for more skill expression in combat. So that's good to hear. I know that's been a big thing that people have been wanting. The next question is a really big one, I think we'll just take this topic head on. But one of the biggest complaints in the game is the grind. Right? People mention this all the time in the community. Even myself have been critical of the wipe, but you've done a lot of tweaks since the relaunch, and resources are more available. It is much easier to craft things on your own. It's not nearly as hard as before. So kind of how we just walked through what is the state of the game with combat, and you kind of broke it down with what we have now versus what you want to get to. Where are your thoughts with the economy? Because this is probably the biggest topic that I see discussed when it comes to naval action.
Economy or the grind? Should we tackle grind first and then talk about economy, or
let's start with the grind, I guess.
We briefly covered grind in the last conversation, and I asked you to. I mean, I'm not going to revert the question back to you, but I'm asking you to get the feeling of the grind yourself, and maybe even try to level up in the Bermudas, or ask people who recently really leveled up and not just dumped the game because they felt that they don't know what they're doing. So my personal opinion is this: I mean, as a developer, I have to level up characters all the time, and during the test bed, before the test bed, and during the test bed, and after the test bed, after the launch, I level up several times up to the third rates. And in terms of the grind, in terms of the experience and ability to switch to the higher vessel and higher vessel, the economy is balanced for me, for my taste. So I personally was able to, I had specific targets in terms of time that I can use, because I can play longer, but I had to use the time that the average player would have. So 1-2 hours per day, and once 2 hours pass, finish playing and wait for the next day. So in terms of this, you can get to the advanced PvP content or advanced PvE content in a week. In a week or a week and a half. And the PvE combat economy balance is structured the way that the PvE pays for itself, and you actually don't need to. The only thing you need to buy is you need to buy gunpowder and cannonballs, because against the AI, you don't need much variety of equipment, and the AI is dumb enough that you don't have to repair in battles. So you don't actually spend a lot of money on PvE. So my personal opinion is that I don't see the grind, but as we discussed the last time, maybe I have the tunnel vision in terms of that I understand the combat so well that I don't have any problems in sinking the vessels. But once the player gets to the certain level, he can easily level up without thinking about money if he is not PvPing. What is extremely important is that the PvP component is extremely expensive right now, and we're going to fix this. But we can talk about this after the economy and the grind topic is finished. So in terms of if you're only PvEing, I don't see the grind, and maybe community can help us understand what we are missing, because I never had problems with money. I never had problems with gunpowder. I never had any problems with consumables. You don't need books against AI. You don't need modules against AI. AI is not a confident fighter, so to speak. But of course, there are multiple types of players that are coming into the game, and some of them, as we see in comments, they're very diverse. Even in the comments to a videos or questions, and even to the comments of other players, some people say that there's no grind. They enjoy it. Some people enjoy the grind. So we making it easier, giving more money or giving more XP. How far should we go? So if it takes to get to mid-level, so for example, Dune Awakening or any other MMO, if you need to level 40, you need a lot of time. In our game, you can get to the mid-level gameplay in a week. Is it grind?
Yeah,
To your opinion?
I think it is. I think look, I know some people like it, and these are the people that currently exist. But the voices that I feel like are not being heard are the ones that have bounced off of the game. I come from the combat flight community, so my Discord, which has about like 20,000 people in it, like we will float between different games. When we're not feeling like flying. So Naval Action was one of these games I came across, and we all started to play it. And I don't know how many people I brought to the game, a lot. And when we all started playing, the number one complaint was the new player experience, because sailing is not like, it's not like racing, like a car or using a tank or something, where what I mean. People have to learn how to sail. It took a long time to kill AI in order to reach rank, and I think it's something that's probably the biggest filter that really holds up like new players coming into the game, because it's just like I have seen countless players play for like 5 days. They get into maybe a trink by then, and then they just are sick of fighting the AI, and they see everyone else playing PvP, but they're just like, it just feels too far away from them. That's been exacerbated, I think, with this patch with the gunpowder and all that, because now it's like they have to worry about grinding eco in order to continue the XP grind. But I do genuinely think that the new player experience is pretty hard. If I were to have a free hand to do something, it would be really interesting if you added more quests like you have with the trade missions, or the cargo delivery missions, whatever. And then if you added some that were like, sink a certain ship class, um, outside the PvE zone, and the XP would be much, much larger, or you just add a bigger final exam that's much harder. And if the player passes it, then they just reach final rank, because like in my opinion, the game really begins when you hit a third rate, because then that allows you to take part in some port battles. The ship is big enough where it feels like you're using a big ship, and like you can kind of take any sort of fight, up or down. But that's kind of my answer to your question.
Yeah. So the question is in this regard is a comparison with the past. So we have we have seen it all, right? I mean, you joined the game later than many others, and we've seen the multiple implementations of this so-called ability to bring the player to combat fast. The original vision was the following: as a player who came from PvP background, we added the tools so the players who don't want to PvE, they can easily jump right into the combat by doing the following things, right? They could get some initial exams, do the final exam. Final exam gave you the Master Commander rank. There was no gunpowder, there was no cannonballs, the ships were free at sea, you could capture any vessel. You didn't need to craft, you just jumped into the vessel. And the experience gain was much faster then. So the experience gain was much faster, and the player could get into the PvP right away, right like in the second day. Or if you pass the final exam on the first day, you could go into PvP in a heavy frigate in the first day. Then we didn't see the difference in retention. We don't see the difference in retention with this system and the current system. And another thing is that system was giving the player a disservice of missing out on beautiful lighter vessels. And that was, if you notice, so if you really decide to level up, maybe for views on YouTube, because lots of players will watch it, including me, of real hands-on leveling up from scratch, zero to hero kind of video. But you will see that you actually now have to pass through multiple lighter vessels and see the differences between all of them and see them in action. That would actually the real captain would do. So there is a balance. We need to balance between, is it a lobby-based game? Because a lot of players who are pushing this fast third rate on the first day approach. I mean, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit your phrase. Of course, you don't want a third rate on the first day. But in general, if we, let's exaggerate it to see if the system works, let's say we give all players the rank on the start of the game that they are all third rates. What will it change? If you analyze this metaphor, you'll see that nothing will change. They will still have to make money. They will still have to find groups. They will still be ganked. And they will have to replace the losses, and they will have to find targets. So in general, but at the same time, they all miss, because after the third raid, there are how many ships? Like 10, 12 ships. So they'll miss 45 vessels. They will not be able to try them. They will not see the beauty of those ships in combat. And even now, even though they experience a little bit separated, separated meaning that we now have this granular leveling where you will first have 2, 3, 4 battles in the Lynx or Privateer. Then you'll trade up to the Brick because there will be not enough crew. You'll trade up to the Rattlesnake. Then you'll trade up to Renom or Cerberus. And then after Trink, you can, because of all the ships now have undercrew, you can sail a much bigger vessel in a smaller crew. But let's say War Thunder, let's say everybody gets level 10 combat plane or tank right away. Will this make this game better? I'm personally not sure.
So I don't think it has to be like in a rush, because the way I think about it is the having to use a certain ship gives you the ability to learn about it and like the profile and all that. I kind of wish actually that was like a little bit more fleshed out into the game. It's interesting because you mentioned Tarkov, and to me, like the quest system in Tarkov, in my opinion, that quest system was not a story. That was the tutorial. And that was a really good way to get players to learn the maps and to push them out of their comfort zone. Like if you remember Tarkov,
the Eastern European style, and we had this mechanic. You know what? Like why, for example, the original version of crafting was implemented, is that same way here. So the Pocket Watch quest, for example, the Pocket Watch quest, it's not a quest, it's not a tutorial, it's a humiliation ritual. Eastern Europe Marines have, or American Marines, or different kinds of combat organizations use this to so-called a trial by fire. So you send the person, right? Like remember, if you play Tarkov from the beginning, the customs map in Tarkov actually had only one line in the beginning. You couldn't actually go around anywhere. If to get a pocket watch, you get to go through everybody. So I personally think it's a Eastern European thing. The harder it is, the better. The more times you die, the better. Maybe it comes from the Eastern philosophy. I don't know, maybe even samurai philosophy, because in Eastern Europe we enjoy these games. DayZ is probably more popular in Eastern Europe than in and DayZ came out of the Eastern Europe. So I'm not sure. A Pocket Watch quest in Tarkov is not a tutorial. I think it's the old style naval action type, no green zones. If you go out of the capital, you will be ganked by first rates. And the funny thing is, at that time we had high online numbers. So maybe it is the answer that you need to just provide players with money and coming back to the economy. Maybe the issue is not the grind that we don't see, is the issue of XP. Maybe players are okay in progressing in different ships, and the problem is in money. So they can't fund PvP because PvE is boring, and that's why customers dropping. But PvE is PvP is unaffordable. So we are solving this by trying to solve this by, first of all, giving leaderboard rewards for top PvP players. We are working on the ranked mode for top PvP players, but for normal PvP players, this is actually the exclusive announcement for Enigma YouTube channel, is that PvP reals for damage automatically paid to the bank account will come back, and will come back with a patch. So whenever, even if you lost the battle, you'll be paid by the Admiralty for for all the damage you inflicted. So, and the payment will be enough to cover expenses for your next trip. So in general, PvP, just like PvE, because for example, we initially were against this because we thought the players will exploit this to death, but we finally realized that if we try to kill all the exploits, we will just kill the players as well, because constantly blocking mechanics and features because of the alts just ruins the gameplay for normal people. So for example, that's why we don't give PvP rewards. Didn't give them before because we were so scared of the alts that we basically ruined the gameplay for all the normal players, and actually increase the problem because ruining the game for normal players creates more incentive to use the alts. So in general, we're gonna cut this Gordian knot by implementing significant PvP rewards for damage, even if you lost. So you can just jump into Trinkamale, sail out, fight, and if you lost, the money for damage you inflicted, the more damage you inflicted, you get a lot more money. Another problem that we missed when we implemented the patch is that in PvP, the combat is actually requires significantly more resources, especially if it's not just a gank, but especially if it's a skill-based long battle where you consume chain, you consume grape, you consume repair several times, you have multiple repair cycles during the battle, and you have to actually shoot the real gunpowder all the time. So gunpowder is staying. We liked it a lot. We like it a lot, even as because it brings the, so to speak, the force to the universe, because it solves a lot of problem in terms of the economy as well. It gives purpose to crafters. Finally, something useful, because this is what people were always asking, like make economy player driven and useful, so the crafters can feel useful in the game. And now finally we have this. I hopefully I answered the question about the grind.
Let me jump in real quick, because one, okay, you said a lot. Okay, three things. Okay, one, we're on question number 3 out of like 9. Okay, and we're 35 minutes in, so I'm gonna go a little bit quicker, but let me you said a lot, so let me unpack some of it. Okay, so one, basically, thanks for the exclusive, that's interesting. So basically, you're going to add a mechanic that gives people money if they just do damage, and I think you also said you're going to give rewards to the PvP leaderboard, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting. I think this is a really good idea. Asterisk, it depends on how much the reward is. I would assume like if you're making some sort of, because in general, I would like to think that, if you are doing PvP, and even if you lose, you can still make a little bit of a profit, because I would like to hope that things are incentivized so players can bump into each other. Like, to me, that seems interesting. You also, with I'm gonna say something that might be a little controversial a little bit, but I think your idea of the gunpowder idea, it's I think when I played last was when it was the Stern Rake meta, and that's when people could craft their own things, like they could grow their own trees and all that stuff for potatoes, and it really kind of was boring, because when that was going on, no one ever left their port. They just like would craft everything, and then that was it. And they were all farming in front of their ports, and it was like I stopped playing back then because I literally could not find a fight in the open world, because I'm not a big port battle person. And now with this patch, there's like traders all over the place. People have to move supplies. Like, I actually do think it's, in a way, the concept's better for the game, but I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And I'm curious, because I've heard this comment come up quite a bit, which is the open world speed. Because I think thematically, I can see the vision, which is like, we need players to move stuff around, because when they move stuff around, it allows for content to happen. But then the pushback to that all players say is that it's not naval action, it's naval job, because it takes so long to move things around. You only have so much time to play. The wind's in the wrong direction, you kind of get fucked, or you know what I mean? Like, and it takes too long. So I'm kind of curious, like, what's your reaction to the request that players have about the open world speed?
Well, I mean, I understand the players will troll us for this comment, but in general, if your average experience for the captain of the Age of Sail was 6 months patrol with no combat, and the only thing the captain got for that patrol was hernia and scurvy. So in general, our experience is much better than real life, and I understand that this topic, the Age of Sail, didn't work for us in the lobby-based environment. So in terms of hopefully, if I don't answer your question, please interrupt and re-ask. So in general, we believe that the long time between battles makes them a little bit more excitement. The key point is to not make them either too often or too rare. And of course, once we bring PvP rewards, we believe that some of course, PvP players will come back and start playing again. And because the combat is exciting, PvP combat, I mean, and this feeling of hunt, that you are hunting someone, and you see real players that are doing real stuff in the world, that creates the exciting feeling that you are part of the living environment. It's not like a dead sea, so to speak. So I believe that once we have solved the PvP rewards issue, the PvP players will start fighting again. This will create demand for the goods, ships, upgrades, and consumables. This creates more traffic to the map, and this in turn creates more PvP opportunities. And the HDF fleets also will be an area that will involve some PvP, group PvP, especially because the HDFs are big. So that's why you need a group. So other players also will try to get them, or maybe fight you, and maybe get the results out from your holds and bring them back for themselves. So in general, we believe that our mistake in terms of the patch in February was trying to solve the alt problem instead of fun problem, and that's what we can talk about, because last time we talked about alts a lot, and I think we should just ignore the alts, because whatever attempts we tried to fix the alt issue, they actually increase the problem instead of they reduce the problem. So PvP damage will be exploited. So some people, like the old times in the Gulf, in the empty area, some guy will bring his friends and they will farm damage to get some money. And if we try to close it, we kill PvP. So maybe we shouldn't try to close this loophole and let players fight the way they want. So if they want PvP against a stationary ship, maybe they should.
Okay, we just want, so basically your pushback, or sorry, not your, excuse me, your answer to the request about faster open world speed, you're basically saying you think the open world speed is fine how it is, right?
The question. Yeah, no, the open world speed is not fine. I mean, but it's not bad. The problem is that you cannot have it faster. In the current world, if you make it faster, you will have significant issues with the desync in terms of if one player is in one location of the world and another player is in another location of the world. So the consistency is already not enough, because when we launched, the open world speed was much slower. So when the game launched, when the online was 5,000 and everybody loved the game, the speed was much slower than now. And it was consistently increased by request of players that we eventually found the, so to speak, the threshold above which we cannot go. So the current world speed cannot be increased. In terms of the technical issues, especially when you're sailing not in a parallel course, if your target is sailing towards you, and if you're sailing towards the target, the number of units per second in relation to the size of the map, it's so big that if that person has 300 ping and you have 300 ping, in this case, the battle will always be created in a very random, weird place that it's already happening because the speed is too high.
Okay, so basically, very good answer, right? There's a technical limitation because you don't want to cause too much desync. I totally understand that, because I have noticed that, when you're trying to tag someone and you look like you're in the circle and then it fails. So like I understand that. I think that the underlying reason for the question is that I would like to think that people would be more okay with the gunpowder and the gun ball requirement if it was faster to get them, because it just takes. Okay, let me tell you how I sustain myself in the game. Okay, I have about 4.5 or 5 million reals. So I would actually love to know where on the percentile I am in total net worth in that game. That's actually kind of funny. Maybe you know, but so I would like to think that I'm not poor in the game. But basically,
of course, you're rich.
Like how?
I mean, not
2
very,
percentile, 5 percentile.
Well, I mean, I don't have numbers in the mind, but above average.
Okay,
above average.
So basically, the way I do it is just by gunpowder, right? And basically, but I spend a lot of time doing it. Every morning before work, when I have my coffee, I just like move my supplies around and I list it, and then I go to work, and then I come and then I play when I get home, and then after I go to bed, I do another round of moving stuff around. So basically, when I think about how much time I spend toward crafting and trading versus how much time I actually end up playing, it's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio, or maybe it's a 1.5 work, 1.5 work.
Yeah, this can be increased. Yeah, this can be increased because the target is 1 to 10. So I mean, I like personally.
Sorry, when you say 1 to 10, do you mean 1 work?
One hour is like if you spend 1 hour, you get yourself enough things to play normally without thinking about anything for another 10 hours.
Oh, okay. But so that's the intention. Okay, where would you say the ratio is now in your mind?
Well, I mean, if in your experience, we trust this phrase, if it's 50-50, that means that the amount, the weights of the goods needs to be reduced, or the hulls of the ship needs to be increased. So this 1 hour trip gives you a week of gameplay.
Okay, so basically you're in agreement that it's more or less closer to a 1-to-1, but you want to extend it to a 1 to 10 ratio, 10 being play.
Yeah, our target was 1 to 10, but unfortunately, maybe not all locations in the map correspond to this ratio. So we tested this number in Bahamas and several popular areas of the deep water, but maybe there are locations that have this number much higher. So it's a very easy fix. If everybody, we can run an in-game poll of how much hauling you need to do compared to the combat, and solve this issue very fast.
Yeah, I would Okay, I'm going to go off script now because this is an interesting discussion. This is more interesting than the other questions. So, the let me think. Let me collect my thoughts. Okay, so one, my reaction, 1 to 10 ratio sounds amazing. I think if this message can get out to a lot of people and they understand that this is the intention and you're working toward it, I think this is going to be very interesting for people. Because I think when the relaunch first happened, I think the ratio was not 1 to 10; it was more like 3 to 1 in my experience. That's mostly because the resources were just not available. But
It was on test, but on test, but it was worse because unfortunately we miscalculated the weights for gunpowder. And
yeah. I get it. It happened, but basically, you know, you're working to fix it, which is great. Now, you know, the in-game polls is interesting because this is actually a question that someone had, so I'm going a little bit out of order. You know, I think the in-game polls, I don't know if it's just me being dismissive of players that I disagree with. It could be that. So maybe I'm just dumb. But I, you know, there is this thing of like selection bias, or echo chamber where it's only the remaining players that really, you know, because some players probably love the grind. Some players probably want the grind to be even more, right? And they're going to vote. But I can say from my pocket of the internet, and I would like to think that even though the data is anecdotal, but I have, you know, it's a non-trivial amount of people that I talk with, and I think this would go over really well. So that's good. Now, one thing, and I also think this will help RVRs quite a bit because let's pivot into this, which is that I really like the concept of RVRs and the whole port conquest stuff. I personally don't play it that much, but I love to follow it because in my mind, this is the narrative or the story that's happening in the background, and players can follow along with it. And after every big battle, you know, everyone goes on Discord and then they poke fun at each other. And I really love that piece of it, even though I don't take part in it because it just takes way too much time, and I just don't have the time to do a big port battle because a port battle takes it's like a 3-hour affair. I'm more of an open world player, but regardless, I do enjoy following it. Now, my reaction to all of our discussion is that the ratio from work to play is naturally going to help RVR. It's going to make it much easier. And now there are some things that we talked on the last call that I would love to talk to you about, which is port taxes, right? Because clans right now, I don't want to say there isn't a reason to own a port. I mean, that's content, but this was the big reason before with owning ports, especially the tobacco ports. And now, you know, I know last time we talked, you were thinking about maybe bringing back the clan ports, or sorry, the port taxes. And I'm kind of curious if you could just kind of talk about that because I'm sure people are going to be really curious. Because in my opinion, this will help to give a much bigger incentive for clans to take part in RVR because right now, especially defending against the what are those things called? The Conqueror or the those AI?
Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders. Those are just money sinks. Like you don't really make enough money to pay for it. So I'm kind of curious. Or is the combat money system that you're going to implement, the damage system that generates rails, is it with that plus the port taxes? Is that going to cause too much inflation? Kind of curious to see where you go with this.
Yeah. First of all, about the Raiders. The Raiders are set up in terms of the loot that they actually pay double for the damage required to sink them. So they loot plus they have you have the ability to get some rare things. And we of course we already have this module set up, but we have not delivered them because we need to get the patch out first. The Raider modules that will drop from them that will increase the incentives to get it. But in general, the Raiders were the time sink. And unfortunately, the system that was designed, we liked the concept of the Raiders. And I know that some players hated them because they had to defend every day. They had to go, instead of playing, they had to defend the Raiders. To fix this problem, this first part of the problem that they were happening too often. And the second part, we're going to increase the incentives to get them. But even with the old system, when we reduced their number, we got multiple complaints from PvE servers specifically, and from the PvP server players who enjoyed getting these simple port battles because it's organized, group event that provides you with a good enemy that is sailing straight in a nice, beautiful line, and it is a good battle where coordination is important. So I think that fixing the PvP rewards again will actually bring the incentives to get the raiders as well, because if they drop good models, sometimes players will want to go to them. Coming back to so the port taxes. On port taxes, we're extremely conflicted. And the interesting story is that there are multiple players who are afraid to talk on Discord because they don't want to be attacked, because when we have a very passionate and sometimes too passionate community, but they say that they please don't bring taxes. And the thing is that why they're saying this is because inflation is an extremely important problem, and inflation kills the game for the new player. Because if you have 100 million reals, you can buy that rare book for 100 million. But the new player will never get it because he doesn't have doesn't have a port, doesn't have a clan, and all the things associated with it. But on the other hand, there must be incentive to own the port. And the incentive to own the port can come from different directions. The direction number one is, of course, the port tax. Just gives you money, depending on the activity in the ports. If you own a good port, you get a lot of money. The second part is old system that we had, but had to remove because players complained, is that unique port bonuses, meaning not the universal port bonuses like the system where you joined, but before we had unique port bonuses, a la similar to the system that had several old school MMOs had, where basically let's say if you control Cartagena, you sort of control the super artifact that gives all ships built in Cartagena the ability to be stronger. But this system is useless with alts, because alts can also build ships in Cartagena, and that's why that system was removed, because it was not working as intended. So in general, my current inclination is that port taxes are needed, but they are needed at a much lower scale. And we are thinking about several systems of how to make it a little bit more exciting, but have not found the proper solution yet. So, for example, one of the ideas was to calculate these taxes on a daily basis, but only pay them out to the owner of the port at the end of the month. This will give an interesting incentive to actually capture the port before the tax payout, so you can steal it, so to speak, the loot from the enemy clan. But on the other hand, this can be exploited by friends, so you can ask a friend to attack a port. I mean, not even an alt. You can just ask a friendly clan in the enemy nation, please attack and save us. So with current view is that we just normal taxes paid daily can return. There is a good chance that they will return.
So let me ask. Okay, so I'm seeing. There's a lot of different avenues people are gonna make money, right? You can do PvP. People do PvE. They're gonna make money just by shooting at stuff. Raiders are gonna get double money. There's gonna be port taxes.
Raiders already do double money, but they need maybe to pay more. And the main problem again with raiders was, of course, they were daily. So instead of doing PvP, okay, continue.
Yeah. So basically, my question is, not to. I want to move on from the economy, but this is interesting. But basically, so now I'm going to imagine that people are going to have a lot more money, right? Which is great. But now the question is, people are going to be burning through gunpowder now, right? Because now there's going to be more people playing. There's going to be more fighting. People are going to be more willing to fight, which is great. That's good. My question is, how are you thinking about how to make the supply of things be available? Because like if things shoot up, I don't know, 5x, right, and people start shooting a lot more. I'm sure people will be willing to take bigger ships or in bigger groups. Like people are just going to be chewing through ammo, and it's going to be forcing people to move more supplies. I guess you're really going to have to increase the amount of stuff that you craft per craft cycle, and then also how much stuff you can move, and make things way lighter, because then you can move stuff not necessarily faster, but you can move stuff more per trip. Is that kind of where your mind's going?
Well, yeah, not really, but the direction is the same. So there are two components again. PvP. I'll rephrase. The original design of the reset is that you don't need to you get things only by sailing at sea. So you need to either sail to pick up goods, or you need to sail to deliver goods, or you need to sail to sell gunpowder somewhere in a distant destination at a huge margin, or you PvE. But PvP was forgotten because of alts. So every activity should be sustainable if you only want to do this activity. And the current mistake in the design is that PvP and RVR are not supporting themselves. So if you take this logic and bring it to the conclusion, then of course RVR taxes should come back, and PvP should pay for damage, plus give XP and pay for extra achievements in the leaderboard. So in this case, I think that the system will then start balancing itself, because PvP players, if they make more money, they buy more gunpowder. Traders now can hold more and sell more money, make more money as trading. So in general, this all will nicely tie together in one working mechanism.
Okay. One thing that's come up quite a bit is fires, and you talked a little bit about how you're trying to, with leaks and fires, you're trying to make it so you can overwhelm the defenses of a ship, and you're not like having to kill it by coring it out, but allowing it to be overwhelmed. One big complaint, and I actually agree with this one. Well, let me think. Actually, I agree with it quite a bit, because it happens a lot in RVRs where you start to play, you get hit, and you catch on fire, and then when it happens, all of it's like a coin. It's a coin flip. You get hit, then you're on fire, and now all of a sudden you get focused and you get blown up, right? So I understand that why, because historically these ships rarely ever like just got sank just by getting shot, right? It was mostly the crew dying, or they got worked down, or they took on too much water or whatever. But the fires have been a big complaint, because with how repair cycles work in the game, it feels like you're just at the victim of random chance, and people complain quite a bit with fires. And I know when we talked last, you mentioned, I'm going to kind of put words in your mouth, so sorry, but I'm just trying to go quickly.
There are no tools currently.
Yeah,
there are no tools. We need to bring buckets back. The buckets were a tool that players can use to completely remove the fires and reduce the chance to get on fire, plus increase significantly the speed of putting it down.
Okay.
So in general, the fires, we were a little bit excited too much in testbed, because everybody said amazing, because fires were not working properly for a very long time. And we finally made them work properly, because now they're all universal across the ship. So the thing is that when a fire appears, if you hit the area of the ship where the crew is, and if the crew is reloading, during the reload, or if the crew is ready to fire, you can hit the cannonball penetrates the ship, the splinter hits the crew, the guy falls down, and his igniter falls into gunpowder, and the fire starts. So this is how fires usually started at the ship. In general, this is implemented in Naval Action. So when you hit the gun or hit the hull where the guns are, you have the chance to get the fire. Old system was broken because it was based on per hit chance, and that's why you constantly saw bigger ships burning much faster, or creating and Lynx was never on fire because of only 4 guns. So in general, this system was fixed, balanced, and the current number of how often you will get on fire is 2.5 battles. So in general, any ship can expect to get on fire every 2.5 battles, meaning but there are no tools to remove it. So we are bringing buckets back, and maybe we need to reduce the number of fires you experience to 3 or 4 battles potentially, and that will naturally solve the problem. It will still be an amazing tool that you can use, because you can control if you can get the enemy on fire. If you can get the enemy on fire, the mechanics works like this: lighter guns have a much higher chance to get on fire than heavier guns. So if your target if you target any ship in the upper decks, you can consistently get it on fire if you focus fire with a group.
Okay. So we kind of already answered this question, which was alternative ways for players to generate money. You've more than answered that question. We did talk, but I did want to cover just 3 quick things, right? There were treasure fleets in the past. We have talked offline about AI traders. Actually, not offline. That was on the Discord. AI traders and like AI convoys, and then also, is there going to be the ability for players to craft upgraded modules? Kind of curious of like your quick response to those 3 ideas.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So for upgrades, let's start with upgrades. If player crafts them, then the resource that is available for crafting should be sold in the market. So if this upgrade is very good, this resource will be outbid and competed against, and this will again turn into the rare model. So in this regard, right now everybody is equal in terms of the upgrades. You just go to the sea and you fight the NPC ships, and you can get the upgrade. Sometimes you want, sometimes you don't want. So, but if the upgrade is craftable, then the port that is producing that resource becomes the unbalancing force. So let's say, for example, there is Cartagena planking, and Cartagena gives a significant bonus to thickness. That means that the clan that owns Cartagena now only has this resource. Now we need to balance this and bring it to other ports as well. So nobody complains, and then it now becomes not rare, and in this case we need to bring rare resources into the system, or rare modules to the drops, so it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak, that these modules, again, clans get control on these modules, and the players cannot now, the normal players cannot use them.
I think sorry, if I can just respond. Sorry to jump in, but I think it'll be real. I think this idea about having locally produced products like a Cartagena, and then I don't know, like there's this other item like British Marines or whatever, and they help give you more Marines for your ship. Like, you know, if they're only produced in Jamaica or whatever, all of a sudden it gives a huge reason for wanting to conquer these certain areas, or to trade or to move things out of those areas to different places. I think that's really neat because it gives, like right now, like
Bermuda Cedar. I'm not sure.
Exactly. And by the way, yeah, actually, but the one thing though with this is that it really gives the reason for cross country alts. Because that's right now, because we talked last time about alts and why people are using cross country alts. It's because of these locally produced products. So like people who want certain woods, I think Veracruz has some wood. I forget.
Yeah,
we
are fixing this issue by adding the control to the clan of who can buy the resources on the market. So the clan it's already in the game. I mean, it's not on live the game, but internally it's already in the build, where the clan who owns the port can lock the market to clan and alliance only. And in this case, alts will be completely eliminated from trading in this port.
Okay, great. AI traders, I know they kind of exist right now, but the loots is very small on it. I know we talked about AI convoys. The idea was that like you could schedule convoys to leave, you know, clan-owned ports to another clan-owned port to drop things off. Like, any interest in that or no?
The AI traders was significantly buffed once we realized that they're not giving the alternative to hauling. So I believe that the NPC traders are now slightly balanced. I mean, they balanced in 90% balanced to the hauling yourself. So right now, instead of hauling yourself, let's say you want to build gunpowder or build a ship. Currently, in the early version, after the testbed, after the launch of the reset, the fastest way to get all the resources for gunpowder and crafting the ships or cannons was directly sailing yourself out and just buying the resources on the market. Once we saw that there must be alternatives as well from privateering, now privateering of NPC traders provides a little bit faster time than holding yourself. So if you find a place, this is advice, this is also an exclusive, but maybe many players already know it, that if you find a place where there are lots of traders, NPC traders, or player traders, it's much easier and faster to actually sync those traders using the tradership in a fleet and get all the resources there. And in general, this ratio 1 to 10, 1 hour of NPC hunting will provide you should provide you for 10 hours of gameplay. But we will retest it again, and this number should work. Maybe it's closer to what you said, a little bit more even, but the NPC traders actually now provide a little bit faster way to get the resources you need. And they actually drop everything, meaning that they drop everything you need for gunpowder, ships, and cannons. Now, in terms of the AI fleet and treasure fleets, we had treasure fleets. There were several iterations of treasure fleets. The treasure fleet iteration number 1, there was a real fleet sailing. And what we found that it's not working because players who found it could easily lock this content out for others by just attacking it and sitting in battle. Second version of the fleet was the derelicts. I mean, the hulls of the ship spread out in a certain area. And that was based on fishing, unfortunately. That was a stupid decision, of course. But if you open so sometimes players would open the sealed bottles, and as long as the significant number of sealed bottles were opened, the treasure fleet appeared in the map. So that was it was removed, and that's why I'm easily telling you the mechanic of how the treasure fleet derelicts appeared on the map. So we need to fix this once we fix fishing, once we fix the mechanics for getting the treasure fleets out. We will add it back. But the initial version of treasure fleets will be HDFs. So we call them HDFs because users call them HDFs, but this will be a good rich fleet sailing around in the center of the map with good protection and good ships that you can exploit for loot. In terms of the AI deliveries, we deliberated on this topic very long time ago. And we couldn't find any solution that will solve the exploits. And unfortunately, we don't think we can find them because let's say you set up the delivery for AI, you collect, there is an interface, you select the ships that are delivering, you put the items that you want to deliver, and the ships are sailing. So if this delivery is on map, then there is a very big chance that this delivery will never get to the destination unless it's very lucky. So it's luck-based delivery. So once you know that it's a luck-based delivery, then you will never use this feature, because if your fleet with expensive things that you send only arrives in, let's say, 30% of chances, 30% of cases, then you will not use this feature. So you will prefer to deliver yourself. If it's an off-map delivery, then it removes the traffic from the map, and it's just the money sink. We had this feature actually a long time ago, but we removed it because it's people stopped hauling at all and just use this mechanic. So that's my answer on the AI fleet deliveries.
All right. Last time we talked, and I kind of want to, we kind of have been touching on the periphery of this question, but let's talk about open world combat and how it should develop over time. So we've talked a lot about it, but I'm kind of interested in how, there's a tremendous amount of time and work that has to go into RVRs. And if you were to think about how applicable it is to the entire player base, I would probably argue that RVRs are not totally applicable to everyone, because only so many people have enough time to play those sort of or have those sort of time commitments. And open world is much more accessible. It's the main part of the game, I would argue, and accessible, or should be accessible and applicable to everyone. So I'm kind of curious, like, how much more of time are you going to be focusing on RVRs versus like fleshing out the open world?
Well, RVR comes from incentives. So if there are incentives, that's why there are less RVR now than we maybe want because of lack of incentives, and the port taxes will be the main driver. So once port taxes come back and let's say the rare resources control gets in, there will be much more incentive for at least some of the ports. So the clans that want a certain wood, they will definitely capture that port and lock the access, because in this case they will have easy access. So incentives, the incentives determine the desire. So if let's say, as you said, and you're totally correct, it takes enormous time to prepare for the port battle and get into the port battle and exit the port battle. So 3 hours, let's say. So if the resources received for this port battle as a reward are not enough to counter these 3 hours, then of course nobody will do RVR, or will do it because they just do it for other incentives. For example, many players, and especially bigger clans who play this game for a very long time, they just enjoy this ability to paint the map in their color. So they like control of the territory, and that's why they do it, not because of incentives. Some hunters and PvP hunters, they hunt other players not for the rewards, they hunt it for the feeling of the hunt, so to speak. So in terms of the incentives, the RVR takes too much time, but I'll explain why. The game was originally designed when we were all young and had no kids, and unfortunately new systems may be needed to completely change the philosophy. And actually in testbed, our first week, the port battles were instant, just like in 2016 when the game launched, because it was simpler to test port battles. So you get the flag, get to the port, you get the port battle in 30 minutes. So you know, no need for placement and then waiting one day and everything. And funny thing is that when we removed it, there were several players who said, "Oh no, please bring it back. We want instant port battles because it saves time." But it becomes extremely expensive to defend, because you always need to have the, so to speak, the defense fleet on call, and it's completely impossible because we are all adults, we all have jobs, many of us have kids, and to answer your question, we want to remove this time commitment, we want to reduce this time commitment for RVR, or at least provide significant incentives to make it worth it. That's it.
Okay.
Hopefully I answered your question.
No, you did. Okay, so now I put up a post on YouTube and asked players for questions. This is not me asking; these are players. So some of these are a little bit more pointed than others. But I took the top, 4 or 5 questions that were the most upvoted. So this is the most upvoted question, and I did not write the name down, so I apologize because I forget the player. I don't have the player names in front of me. But their question was, what do you tell players who quit the game and return 5 to 7 years later, only to find the game with less content? Now, I don't necessarily totally agree with this question, but that is the question.
We've slightly covered this in Discord, and even during this conversation, is that yes, some content was removed, and we believe that removing, let's say, growing trees and growing potatoes is a good thing for the game. So some things were removed for rework, because we spent, once we started working on the patch, on this reset, we started working on it late autumn of 2024, and or maybe even earlier. And the main focus of all the changes was to how do we limit alts, and some of the things that were removed were basically things that were extremely easy to be exploited by alts, and some of those things will come back, like fishing, for example. Fishing is an important part of the Age of Sail, and it should come back. So what do we tell to these players? Well, they need to judge for themselves. Of course, if they like growing trees, then of course they will be very disappointed. But in general, if they like PvP combat, or if they like PvE combat, or just sailing beautiful vessels, the game is actually now better than it was before. Of course, some players who came back, we saw the spike of online, they played, they saw the same game, just in a different angle, and they said, I already played this game before, and that doesn't mean they didn't enjoy it. So they just it's an old game, and they already played it. We need to focus on getting new faces in and getting the new faces stay. So the answer, again, the short version, is that we tell them that we focus on making the game better. So some of the things that were removed, they actually made the game better for the player. But some of them, of course, were removed temporarily. And if you like those things that were removed, then sorry, we apologize.
Okay. Next one, and I actually think this is a very good question. Very good question. What is the plan to improve new player experience? Currently, they join the game in a port with a ship and no real direction on where to go and what to do. Some don't even know where to find tutorials. There is nothing telling them how to fit their ship, what consumables are needed, and how much. That's their question. Along with that, I'm just going to add one piece to it. This whole boarding or anti-boarding mechanic where trying to board ships without cannons. If you don't know that, you suddenly just basically just die. So basically, the question is really how to improve the new player experience.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the sense of direction first. If it depends on the philosophy of how you approach what should the experience in a hard game be. So if you take DayZ, for example, you dropped on the beach with a knife, I don't remember, maybe a pistol, and nobody tells you what to do, nobody tells you where to go, nobody tells you what happens, you just figure it out for yourself. So in general here, I personally, I mean, I understand that some players who don't like this answer will not like this answer. But as a person who at least a little bit familiar with what Age of Sail was about, you arrive in the Caribbean, you get some jobs done for others, you make some money for getting a better ship, getting better cannons, getting some equipment and consumables. Then maybe you'd go try privateering or hunting, and we provide a safe area to do that. And I don't think the players who are interested in the Age of Sail and join the game despite reading all these negative reviews, those players who join, they know what to do in general, and they don't need mouth feeding or walking them with a stick as if they're the grandma who needs help. They don't need help. I mean, if we provide we had the tutorials before, we had experience, let me rephrase, sorry for mumbling. We had the versions of the game where we had this initial rookie mission, for example, where you started the game, you dropped in the combat and explained what to do. You saw the combat in all its glory, and then you were given the quest, go to the Port Royal, deliver this message, do this, do that, and players who did this mission, they didn't have any difference in retention than those who did. So, and the original version of the game, which had high online numbers, and people were a lot more positive about the game then. It had zero guidance at all. So no missions. You just joined the Caribbean. You spawned, let's say, in Port Royal or Fort de France or whatever your capital was, and there was no explanation at all. And players enjoyed it as well. So the answer, what do we do with the new player experience, is, I mean, we don't know what to do with the player experience to make them more excited about the game, because that's how we see it. That's how it should be. And of course, there are mobile games that create these shiny big red arrows, click here, or move your mouse here and give you and unlock your interface until you do the right thing. We don't like such games.
I have an opinion on this. I'm kind of curious of your reaction. So, I mentioned earlier, I come from combat fight simulators. I play a lot of DC, or I used to play a lot more DCS, but I play a lot of combat fight sims, and it's interesting because actually, let me get to my point, and then I'll explain with the fight sims. I think the biggest thing for the new player experience, I do understand your point about not wanting to put the big arrow and say, "Hey, do this." I tend to agree with you. With that said, I do think there's avenues where you could help propel players forward who the ability to give players who have mastered something to move forward even faster. So, for example, if they're in a Renome and they've mastered that ship, do they really need to go kill 20 other ships in order to move forward to the next rank? No, maybe you give them a quest, and that's a little bit harder, like kill an elite or something. I don't know, and then they can move on, right? I think to me that's reasonable. With that said, I think the biggest issue with the new player experience, outside of that, is the stability of things. One thing that I have noticed, and this is very similar to combat flight sims, is because the game has changed so radically, so much, documentation becomes defunct.
Oh,
And
yes, totally correct. And
and
that's actually, yeah, I really want to spend 2 minutes on this. This comes from lack of experience. And we talked about this a little bit in the previous conversation. The comparison between the two games I made, which is Ultimate General and Naval Action, is Ultimate General only had patches that added additional content and have not touched anything in terms of the base mechanics. So, and as I said, the changes thing, we were doing this, of course, in good faith. And we wanted to make the game better. We listened to the community. We removed things. We added things. We changed things. We tweaked combat. We increased speed. We reduced speed. So in general, this back and forth was done because we wanted to make the game a lot better, so it has much more sticking power, staying power, and enjoyment from in terms of the players. But the problem with this comes with the players who enjoyed the original version. And that's actually there. I want to talk about this when we talked about the polls. When you asked about the question, do you trust the polls or not? And this is exactly why it's important. Is that, let's say you have a good feature that 50% of players hate and the 50% of players like. So the players who like this feature, they continue playing it in silent. They don't talk on Discord. They don't complain. They enjoy the game for what it is. And then there is another 50% of players who hate this feature, and they constantly talk to us about it in Discord and tell us, please remove, please remove, please remove, please remove. We remove the feature. Like the tobacco. Tobacco was, so to speak, sorry for this word, was whined about by players so constantly. Remove tobacco. The tobacco is killing the game. Lots of money. It generates so much money. Tobacco is killing the game. So eventually they got what they wanted, and we removed the feature. So what happened then? The feature then, people who liked it now come back to the Discord, and they are now complaining and changing their reviews, and change the opinion of the developers, and change the opinion on the lead developer, me, right? And they say that developers don't listen, they're constantly ruining the game, developers are killing their own game. So in general, they become the players who don't like things. And those who got what they wanted, they now don't change their opinion as well. They don't change their views. Some of them leave because they got what they wanted, they tried it, they didn't help them because it didn't make the game more fun, for example. And then we have this beautiful vicious cycle where every change, what it does, it only changes more and more parts of the community into people who don't like the game. And that's what we see in the reviews, is that whenever you change things back and forth, you destabilize the balance, so to speak. So I totally agree that many changes that were done were not necessary, and maybe the better way would be to, let's say, do Naval Action 2 or Naval Action 3, launch it in a new version instead of doing back and forth. But we did it, A, because of the lack of experience, B, because we really wanted to improve and listen to the players. But now the opinion has changed. We know now that certain things can lead to very destructive consequences. Even though you think you're doing the good thing, eventually it will become a bad thing. So that changes final, so to speak. We're not going to do back and forth. We're just going to improve the things that are not working, tweak a little bit the things that are not working good enough, but we are not going to add trees. We're not going to add, growing trees. Things that are removed forever. And we totally agree with you that the stabilization is very bad.
yeah, because the thing that I wanted to just mention is to this player is, once the game becomes more stable in terms of the mechanics and everything, people are naturally going to fill that void with YouTube videos because players want to play with other players, and players who like games want to help grow the games. And like if you look at DCS, it's interesting
completely
because
agree.
In DCS the modules that aren't a mess and are more stable and don't get totally revamped constantly, they have the best tutorials because they're solid. But the modules that like where the key mappers get reset or things completely change, like you end up with defunct material. So I would imagine this will get better over time, assuming the game gets more.
Hopefully, yes, and
stable.
yeah, totally agree. And some of the features of the game are passed along by players to players, like in the old times, the grandmothers were taking stories, telling stories to the grandkids. There are certain buttons you need to press. Like for example, there's no tutorial for switching off guns. You need to ask somebody, right? So I mean, there are tutorials, but of course, that mechanic hasn't changed. So we want to, going forward, we don't want to touch combat much and don't plan to completely revamp, like for example with raking meta, like we added headshots, then we removed headshots. It completely ruins the balance because player who found the way to win using headshots, for example, and enjoys it a lot, then once it removed, he becomes completely hostile because his favorite part of the game was destroyed.
So
and that's what we want to try to avoid.
The next question is: the frequency of updates has decreased significantly. Why? It's always will it always be like that now? So let me also add to this question. Sorry to put words into this person's mouth, but you talked a lot about some new things that are coming. Some of them are really exciting. The 10-to-1 ratio, in particular, to me, I'm very excited for. So I'm kind of curious, like what is the cadence? I know it's summertime, so people are spending more time with vacations and all that. So I would imagine all sim games things slow down in summer, but what's the frequency of updates that you're expecting?
Well, we burned out in the past whenever we used time when we delivering, when we were giving dates. We usually was always missing them due to the nature of the game development, and we decided that we're not going to give dates, and the frequency of the updates depends on the size of the team, of course, and the team size is small, and some of the things that we want to deliver faster, we can't because of the size of the team. And in general, actually, it touches upon the new player experience. Right now, we would prefer to fix the open vault, the PvP rewards, the RVR incentives, and in general, improve this economy a lot first, and then naturally clans that are willing to get the players for their combat, they will help us keep and recruit the players from those who come into the game. So the frequency of the updates, unfortunately, we cannot do it faster, but the focus, once we deliver this patch with clan management and clan warehouse and clan doc, the frequency will increase because we're not going to be adding multiple things to the updates, and we'll just work on one thing at a time. So this update is delayed because it's big, unfortunately. Big in terms of the lots of mechanics reworked. So for players, it might not feel big, but the problem that clan doc requires significant rework of the old warehouse, and that's why clan warehouse has not been added yet, because we want to have leveling to clan warehouse. We added leveling to clan warehouse, and we are adding the clan doc. So that's why clan warehouse, for example, is still not there. But the 10-to-1 ratio is very simple. We just need to change the weights for the resources.
Next question from a player. Quote, online dropped below your expected target. What is your thought about that? Do you still think that new crafting system and increased grind was the right idea? What do you think about the fact that while playing this game, players often do other things, for example, watching YouTube, because transporting goods is boring? If the answer is it's okay, some will find it relaxing, some boring, so some stay and others leave, and we accept it, then wouldn't it be better to make hauling and open world gameplay more entertaining to keep more players? End quote.
Well, the problem with the distances is unfortunately unsolvable. We even haven't found it unsolvable for the multiplayer game. It's solvable for Sea Legends, for example, and Sea Legends, the world is much bigger in terms of the size, not in terms of the area of the map, but in terms of the size. But for single player, you have other means to speed up the time. without the changing the nature of the world. So here, unfortunately, if you want to keep the size of the map and have this feel that you are not in a bathtub, but because of course we can make this world smaller, but it will feel horrible and look horrible. So in general, unfortunately, the traveling time is a function of the size of the world and the fear and the feeling of epicness of the Caribbean. But in PvP, when you fight in PvP, you don't watch YouTube, right? So the problem is that the hauling itself is not is not interesting enough in terms of the driving the car, so to speak. So I believe that if we can find a way to improve the complexity of sailing in the open world, let's say add wind shifts and add sail control and remove auto skipper from the open world, for example, and make the player sail the ship, that will not make it more interesting, because it will still have to hold long hours. And the second part of the problem is that we asked in the test bed, we had this question on forum and in Discord, that current desire to hold for 4 hours is not caused by the pricing system, because all the systems in the game are now set for a certain profit per hour, and that's why we were able to remove the clicking buttons in port. So let's say, for example, you have two goods. One is let me rephrase. Let's say you have two goods, one good, so you can sell it for 10 minutes and make 10,000 reals. We can sell it for 100 minutes, make 100,000 reals, so 10 times more. So in terms of the profit per hour, let's say, the profit is actually the same. You don't have to sail 2 hours. You can just sail to the nearest port a little bit further, spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, make this money and go back and make double this money for the same amount of time. So, but the price, psychologically gives the incentive that maybe if I want to make more money, I need to actually sail for that distant port over 3 hours. So if this question coming back again and again, we asked the players said, no, keep it. I want to make more money by just alt-tabbing in the game, like in even line. So I hold in even line. And that's exactly what you did. You sail on autopilot for 14 jumps, and then in parallel, you do something else. So it's not like alien to me, but I don't like it. So the only solution to this is to rework the pricing system, where all the hauling trips for the trading goods make money only in 20 minutes distance. And after that, the price goes down. So in this case, players will not have an incentive to sail for 4 hours, and will not complain then that they must hold for 4 hours, because currently the system is not incentivizing them to sail for longer, because the profit per hour is the same for the short trip or for the 4-hour trip. And hopefully you understand this concept.
So basically, I think what you're saying is you're going to try to remove the incentive or the need to have to do these longer trips, right? And then also you're potentially thinking about making the open world sailing more interesting by putting more.
No, I'm saying that the only way that players will the only way to stop players from seeing that they must hold for 4 hours is to completely remove the desire and the incentive to sail for 4 hours by removing the prices at such distances. Because right now prices go from distance of the destination. If the system is removed and the price is the same for two 10-minute trip or 30-minute trip or 5-hour trip, and in this case, nobody will then sail for 4 hours. This is what I'm saying. The currently players, when we asked them, some of them said, and a lot of them said, no, keep it, because I'm just alt-tabbing and I'm making a lot of money. I don't want to make 5 trips. So maybe we need to bring this as a poll into the game, or use your interview and your comments. And it would be interesting to hear players in the comments to this video of is it a good idea, because the incentive to sail for 4 hours can be solved easily. Just give good price at 20 minutes and give 0 price at 4 hours for any good. So all the trips are 20 minutes.
Okay, this is kind of a mean question. but it was upvoted. Do you consider even a little bit to open a third server with 2019, 2021 gameplay mechanics? Steam stats show that those years had high and stable online numbers. There is reason to believe that this could bring success and it could be a good base for further development. Launch and peak online at around 1,500 prove that people are still interested in this game. With right decision, it's possible to get them back. So I kind of know where you're going to go with this, but
No, it's really
that's the
two
question.
questions. In time. How to say it? Sorry, in English. Several questions before you asked me, told me about DCS and the stable features. So the stable features is what the stability of combat and stability of the design and stability of the game, not stability of the servers, but the stability that you can expect that that TTK will stay the same. You will expect that sailing speed will stay the same and this ship will behave the same. Is what gonna keep the players more once the system work well. So if we open the old server, it will not create the bigger server. It will just create two half-empty servers because the players don't play Naval Action. Many players don't play Naval Action not because it's good or bad. Because many of them enjoy it and loved it a lot and spend a lot of hours in it. Many don't play Naval Action because things move on, right? So there are certain games, Enigma, that you're not playing, even though you love them, like Civilization 2, Civilization 3, something like this. So in general, that opening a new server just creates an overhead that will make both versions of the game worse. So I know, and I played World of Warcraft Classic a lot. And I know what the players is saying. Of course, I understand that this could be a good idea if the total numbers of players was extremely high. But because Naval Action is a very niche game, creating such a server will just split the community. And players who are now enjoying the game, let's say they enjoy hauling, or they enjoy providing the whole world with gunpowder, like Honza, right? Your friend. So in general, they will be upset, extremely upset, because the things they now like are now not going to be available for them on that server, and the community will split. So splitting the community is a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Hansa, do you know who the richest person in the game is? I'm just kind of curious. Do you actually
Yes.
look?
Yes, we know.
How rich? How rich are they?
Well, we get these numbers once, like in 1 week or two. We can go back in the past and don't talk about the current numbers and talk about the people. But for example, in the first week, in the first 5 days of the server launch, 100 players, 50 players already had 10 million reals each. So in the first 5 days of launch, so it's very fast. So that's the problem. The problem is that we see that majority of players have huge amounts of money, and yet players are constantly complaining about the grind and the lack of funds. And of course, we partially agree with them that maybe we are not giving them enough information or tools to actually use these tools that they can make a lot of money themselves.
Okay. I think the combat is incredible. It is way better than most games, especially for an MMO. It's also really interesting too because you touched up on this, and I don't think anyone ever really talks about it. And it's interesting that you brought it up twice because we talked about this the other day. But I really have to commend you and congratulate you on the foresight that you had with making so many things ran by the server, because it is so frustrating when you have these other games that have cheaters. They just ruin everything. Tarkov is
It's
a
not
case study.
it's even 10 times more. It's just it's demotivating, it's disheartening, it's frustrating as well. So it removes all the fun from the game. You never know that as soon as you get this concern, maybe he is a cheater, it ruins the game completely.
Yeah.
So because you don't
No, yeah, you're right. And the other thing too, it's like even with like leaks, I know they're not as impactful now. I used to love leaks, by the way, so I'm really excited for them to come back. But like the fact that all the waves are synced and everyone sees it together is incredible, because like in other games like DCS, because that game is such a mess. But like in that game, like for the longest time, the clouds were not even synced. So and in other games too, like some of the flight simulators, the clouds aren't even synced. So like it's just like so messy. But like the fact that the whole environment is synced, there's no cheaters in the game, is really great. Like yes, there's alts, but I think your position now is that they're never going to go away, and you're going to clean up some mechanics. So like yes, maybe alts people will abuse it a little bit, but like people are going to have more money. So ultimately, what I'm really hearing is that there's going to be a bigger emphasis on, in my opinion, the best part of the game, which is the combat, and if people can do a 10-to-1 ratio, 1 hour of air quotes work to set their supplies up, and then the other 10 hours they're playing and actually having fun, having PvP. Like this is content for players. So I think this is going to really push things in a better direction.
Exactly. So to summarize, so the three things that we believe that are worth when we discuss this conversation, but to summarize at the end, is that first of all, the PvP rewards are coming back and coming back in force, and they're not only coming back for wins. You will get the reals for damage in the old school Venetian banker style bank transfer to your real account. So if you damage somebody, if you damage him good enough, the Admiralty, your country, will pay you that you did something to help your country, and they will pay you to your accounts. You don't need to transport anything. They will just get this money right away in your port. Second thing is that, of course, hauling ratio, our plan was 1 to 10, but it's good that you mentioned that it's completely different to your opinion. So we need to review it and increase it because this 1 hour of hauling, 1 hour, 10 hours of gameplay should be the target. But in general, for most activities, we believe it should be even better, because I believe that PvP player, if he is willing to buy resources from the market, should be able to sustain itself, because PvP combat is what shines in the game, and it was a complete oversight caused by maybe multiple games development or our desire to fight alts. And actually, your conversation also helped. Conversation with you several weeks ago helped to dig deeper. So the decision on bringing the reals for damage was actually helped. I'm not trying to push it on you. I'm just saying that we thought very deeply about alts after conversing with you about all these multi-boxers. They're not really alts. It's a real player sailing, but because he has several boxes, he has more money. So the PvP player shouldn't be thinking about hauling. PvP player should go out, and the country should pay him for going out. And this will then potentially bring the balance to the universe.
Next question is the last one from the player is, how do you deal with stress in your life? Is there anything that helps you to manage it? Like, I guess maybe this is related to like the game development, because that Discord gets a little spicy sometimes.
Well, we were stressed initially long time ago, but initially we weren't stressed because we were complete rookies. Like, didn't know what we were doing, and then over time, yes, stress overcome, because whenever you trying to improve things, and sometimes they don't work and you get upset. But now, we don't really stress about it, because we believe that players are like a family, so you shouldn't stress about the family. Yeah, sometimes they complain. We learn to, of course, sometimes we ban people when we get too excited or too emotional, but immediately unban them later. So in terms of the stress, just playing games, walking around, playing with kids. So that's just like everybody does it.
I'm gonna let you do a closing remark, but before we do, one request I have for you is, after I post this video, I would really love for you to check the comments and see, because I'm sure this video is going to reach a lot of former players, and not just the players that are in the Discord. So it would be really great if you could see what people respond to. I don't know if you want to reply to them or not, but just one thing as an FYI, it'll be a different pool of players responding, I'm sure, from this video. But with that said, any closing remarks from you? Anything you want players to think about? I think this was pretty great. This is a long interview. We're an hour 45 in. I don't really think I want to edit anything out, to be honest. I think I just want players to hear it straight from you, straight from the horse's mouth. Is that old idiom that we have in English? But yeah, anything you want players to walk away with else?
Well, so we want to first of all thank everybody for playing this beautiful game and enjoying the world that we all created together. It was not only our vision; it was the player guidance that helped to create this beautiful combat and beautiful world. And as just you said, I think it's time to realize that we should focus on combat and making everybody join and experience the Age of Sail combat in a shining way against other players, against NPCs. So there were mistakes in the past, of course, and some of the changes that were not right, but they were always done in the attempt to make this game better and create a much better version of itself. But as you said, there's a great it was great discovery during this conversation that the stabilization of combat is extremely important for PvP games. And coming back to combat 1 year later or 2 years later, you shouldn't be completely clueless, and it should stay the same because it's already good. And the things that we promise that we're going to improve the combat to its perfection, but we are not going to have this knee-jerk movements of completely adding or removing mechanics going forward, because we already removed the things that shouldn't be in the game, and we'll only focus on improving the current content and adding things that add up or significantly improve the components that work together. That's thank you again for playing, for buying the game, for buying the DLCs, and helping this game to live and survive for so many years.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for also introducing me to the Age of Sail. I never really cared about the Age of Sail too much until this game came around. And I was really taken by it. So I am a fan, and really looking forward to these changes. I think the 10-to-1 ratio is going to be, I think that's like, for me, the big rallying cry to kind of push people back into the game. So really excited to see. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think what's important, what I found during these two conversations with you, I think we now understand why the EVE Online had this, so to speak, interstellar club, so to speak, where they talk in private with leaders of the big clans, not in Discord where everybody sees and there are lots of emotions, but actually in private, in such conversations. So I think we should continue doing this. And because even these two short conversations have significantly changed our view on certain minor or big things that we didn't think about. And I wonder, maybe we should do it with create some kind of channel where we can converse with people like you or other big clans who can in a constructive, not in a shouting match in Discord, but in a normal way talk about issues.
The
Bermuda was very eye-opening. Yeah.
Please invite others. Not I'm a big dummy. Like I'm just a dummy with a microphone. I'm not a clan leader or anything. I am in a clan. I'm in CFS. Shout out to the boys. But I'm sure other people have other good ideas. I'm just a guy with a microphone. But I appreciate it. I really encourage you to look at the comments when people post, and maybe if you have extra time to reply to them, I'm sure they'll appreciate it. But thanks again, and
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great day.